Hello again. As you know, I am Eli, the computer guy, and today we're going to be doing yet another interview. So we have the CTO from over at Linxup, who is going to be with us today, and we're going to be talking about GPS tracking of vehicles and assets for both small businesses and for residential consumers. So they have a number of different products. Basically, you can plug these little GPS units either into your car, into your truck, screw them onto like a cement mixer, something like that, and then you can track your assets wherever they travel in the country. Make sure you know where they are from a security standpoint, and also make sure you understand how people are driving your vehicles. So again, in the real world, of technology, employees can be one of the scariest things. So if you have trucks, let's say you have a fleet of 20 trucks, and you want to make sure that your drivers are driving them in an appropriate, safe fashion, you can use the Linxup GPS devices to make sure they're driving the vehicles appropriately. Not just from a This is valuable not just from a liability standpoint, from things like insurance, but also from a fuel standpoint. What a lot of people don't realize is these really big trucks, like when you see a cement truck or a sewage truck, a septic tank truck, something like that, they get very few miles to the gallon. So they may get like 5 miles to the gallon of gas. And so if you have drivers who are not driving those vehicles appropriately, it can get very expensive very quickly. If it's $3 a gallon for gas, and you have your drivers are wasting a few gallons of gas per day simply by driving your vehicles inefficiently, that can get very expensive. So having these little GPS units on the vehicle, the GPS units collect all the information from the vehicle, location, all that kind of stuff. They send it up to a cloud service, and then you're able to look at the reports, look and see how people are actually using your vehicles. That can be valuable from a number of standpoints, not simply from the security standpoint. Now, before I go and we talk with the CTO of Linxup, I do have to talk about our sponsors, because again, our sponsors are what help pay the bills, make all this possible. So we have Veeam, Veeam, free backup for PCs, VMs, and Linux, all at veeam.com. DevMountain is a 12-week web development, iOS, and UX design bootcamp intended to get you a full-time job in the industry. Learn to code at devmountain.com. INE specializes in network training with hands-on labs, on-site bootcamps, and a focus on delivering the best in online networking courses. INE.com. Schoolly Mitchell's purpose is to increase clients' profit by reducing telecom costs using software and processes at no risk. We only share savings. SchoollyMitchell.com. Plixer, with scrutinizer and flow data, users can determine what traffic is on the network, who is originating the traffic, and who is receiving it. Plixer.com. And finally, Gilware Data Recovery. Gilware's partner programs help computer repair and IT professionals make money by offering data recovery services to their customers. Find out more at Gilware.com. So with that, as I say, I don't care if you thumb up, thumb down, leave a comment, or subscribe, but if you could click on the links below, that would be very helpful. And with that, let's go over and jump into this interview, because I found it to be a very interesting thing. And again, this is another startup tech company doing very interesting things, and they are nowhere near Silicon Valley. Nowhere near San Francisco, nowhere near California. They're out in the heartland. Is St. Louis the heartland? I don't know, where is the heartland? But anyways, they are so far away from any place you would think of as a normal tech center, and yet they're still out there doing some really cool technology stuff, and they're profitable to boot. So with that, let's go over and jump into this interview and learn about Linxup and GPS tracking of vehicles and assets. So I'm here with the CTO of Agilis Systems, Naeem Bari, and we're going to be talking about their GPS systems and their tracking systems today, talk about the business and basically what their technology does. Thank you for being here.
Happy to be here.
So I guess that's the first question. So everybody has these weird names for their startups. Where did Agilis Systems come from?
So Agilis, and it came
Agilis.
from Agile.
Agile.
So,
Okay.
just being more nimble and being agile, kind of a small startup.
Yeah.
As I said, probably not the best of names you can have out there in the Web 2.0 or 3.0 world now, but
Yeah.
that's where the name came from. One of the founders came up with it, and we said, yep, that sounds as good as anything else. So let's go.
All right, that's cool. And so then your marketing person got in touch with me, and the information he gave me was for something called linxup.com. But then I see there's linxup.com and then motosafety.com. Are these different businesses, or are these different brands under Agilis?
They are different brands under
Okay.
Agilis. So Agilis is the company, and then we have several brands that cater to specific things. So Moto Safety caters to consumers, and Linxup caters to small businesses. The products are largely similar, with just some differences, some nuanced differences between consumers and small businesses.
Ah, okay. So then what overall like what is the product that you create then? I know it's like vehicle tracking software, but what are you guys up to?
So, I mean, it's our deal is that we want to create very simple, very easy to use GPS tracking for very small fleets.
Okay.
So simple, easy, and our target markets are very small fleets,
Yeah.
from one unit consumers to maybe the under 20 businesses that we have out there.
Okay.
And so, we definitely we spend a lot of time and effort into making sure that while we have features, we don't go overboard with them, and whatever features we do add are extremely accessible to our customer base.
Okay.
So that's kind of what we try and focus on: keeping it simple, keeping it straightforward, bundling everything together,
Yeah.
making it easy for you to find. If you decide, get up in the morning and say, "Hey, I want GPS tracking,"
Yeah.
from making that decision to finding us, to ordering our stuff, to getting it, to installing it, to using it, should be as pain-free and as simple as it is, as it can get. That's kind of our reason to be.
Okay. And then so you say a max of 20. That seems like a very small number. I would think you go to a max of 1,000. Like why would
Oh
you
yeah,
choose 20?
and we do. We don't really
Okay.
have any limit.
Yeah.
But as far as where we market to, we're not going to go approach 5,000 unit companies and try and sell them, because generally their needs are much more complex. We're like the Ford Model T approach.
Okay.
You can have it in any color you want as long as it's black. So whether you want 1 unit or 1,000 units
Yeah.
is largely irrelevant.
Hmm.
So our average fleet size tends to be small,
Yeah.
but we have quite a few fleets that are pretty large.
Yeah, okay. And so then when you say you have Linxup and Moto Safety, so Linxup is for your business clients and Moto Safety is for your consumer clients. What's the difference in products there?
Sure. So Linxup focuses more on, you have a group of drivers, so you want to rank them. You want to make sure, whereas Motor Safety will have the report card, has a very nice report card that you get. You
Okay.
get an A, a B, or a C, or a D on how many miles driven, how
Yeah.
many jackrabbit starts, how many harsh brakes you did, how many times you went over the posted speed limit.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the focus. It's also a focus of Motor Safety to coach drivers
Hmm.
rather than just monitor them.
Okay.
So we try and say, look, Johnny got a B. Here's some stuff he could do to make it better.
Yeah.
So it focuses more on individual consumers. Links up, you have a group of drivers. Here's how they're all performing. You can set driving times, curfews, and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and then monitor if your vehicles are being used outside of those hours. You can monitor idling, you can monitor fuel use, you can monitor other things that you, as an owner of multiple vehicles
Yeah.
that are out doing business for you, would be
Yeah.
interested in. So it focuses more on that. And so more reporting and more business focused reporting is probably the easiest way to explain it. Long answer to a simple question.
Okay. So the Moto Safety, is this just for teenage driver? Like would I buy a Moto Safety product for some reason?
Oh, well, the kind of people who fit into the motor safety mold are the most of the people we get are new drivers. So,
Okay.
if you're the mom or dad of a 16-year-old who's just started driving,
Yeah.
then we make it easy for you to say, hey, Johnny, you can have the car as long as you maintain a B or better average
Hmm.
in your grade,
Yeah,
right? So
okay.
that's one class of people. Another class of people who do buy quite a bit more than we actually originally thought
Yeah.
are seniors. So, like, if you have a senior parent who is starting to get to the point where you want to make sure you keep an eye on him and make sure that driving is not getting more and more erratic, or if it is, to take appropriate action,
Yeah.
then people who want to locate and monitor the driving behavior of their seniors. So that's another big component.
Okay.
And then a third component is people who have their own, like, personal cars that they really care for, that they want to just make sure that they know that they have them at all times.
Yeah.
That's kind of generally the buckets that motor safety purchasers fall into.
Okay. And then so when they buy your product, then what actually is your product? Is it hardware, software, both? Like what are they
Yes.
buying from you?
It's both.
Okay.
So when you, let's say, a normal course of affair, a normal buying process might be you go to Google, let's say, and type GPS tracking. You'll see an ad, you'll click it, you'll get to a shopping cart, you will say, I have two cars, and
Yeah.
we'll say, well, do you want to, here you go, here's how much it costs, and here's how much it's going to cost every month, and put in your credit card information, say, okay,
Yeah.
you get a couple of devices in the mail along with a very simple instruction sheet. You plug them in, you
Yeah.
activate them, and then you can use them on the website or you can use them on a mobile app, and off you go. Another very similar buying behavior is you can go to Amazon and search for Teen GPS Tracker or something like that. You will see our devices will show up, and you'll buy the device from Amazon. You'll get it,
Yeah.
or I mean, multiple retailers. You have Walmart, Newegg, Overstock, whatever, wherever the retailers, wherever you got it from.
Yeah.
Same thing. You will go and you will activate it, and you provide your credit card information for the monthly billing, and off you go.
Yeah. You say off you go though, but I was looking at your site, at least for Linxup, and I thought it was saying it got hardwired into your ignition system or something like that. At least how it's described on your website, it sounds like something you have to take to the mechanic, not something that I would do.
So you have options.
Okay.
By far, the most common option is the OBD2 plug,
No.
where
Okay.
you just get a little device in the mail, you stick it into your car, just in the OBD2 port, which you probably know is mandatory on 1996 and newer vehicles, and has to be located within 2 feet of the steering wheel.
Really? Yeah, I
Uh,
didn't know that part.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. So most people just get that, plug it in, off
Yeah.
you go.
Okay.
Um, but then some people prefer the wired version. There's no difference in cost. You get the wired device, which can be more discreet. So you can plug it in, you can wire it inside, and it's very easy to get it wired. Also, you can actually do it yourself, or you can take it to your Best Buy or your stereo shop
Yeah. Okay.
because it has a little card that shows how to install it. And for
Yeah.
anybody who installs stereos or any kind of electronic equipment in a car can just take it, install it, and quite a few people do that.
Okay.
And then when you step up, when you're more into Linxup land, more of the business land, then we have other options too. We have battery back trackers and we have solar back trackers as well.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So then, like with your product, then is it because everybody nowadays is going to this whole concept of platform. Nothing is its own individual product; it's all platform. Do you have APIs, or especially since it's vehicle tracking? A lot of companies have other logistics software. Does this connect into any of that, or does that connect into you, or vice versa?
Yeah, you called it. It's table stakes now. You gotta be platform. You gotta have APIs, and it makes sense. And we do. We have what you would expect. Pretty robust suite of RESTful, JSON-based, open APIs that you can pull data from us, or you can provide us with webhooks that we can publish real-time data to you as we get it from the field,
Okay.
and then you can consume it into your own application.
Is there any special like SDK they have to buy, or just anybody, if you know whatever it is, they can do
Yeah,
that themselves?
yeah. Very simple, API document. You take a look at it and you make calls. I mean, you can just do it. You can wire it up right away.
Oh, okay.
You
Huh.
don't need anything special. You don't pay anything extra. It's just included part and parcel of you. You can't charge for APIs anymore. I mean, I know there's some companies who do, and it's
Yeah.
like, wow, that's a pretty dinosaur way to do things. You want your people to, connect your application to whatever else they've got going on.
Okay. Well, I know it's dinosaur for consumer, but there's that whole different world.
Yeah.
When you go from consumer to corporate, all of a sudden things are used to for getting for free is now $1,000 per session or something a year. Yeah, but okay.
No, no, our costs are identical whether you are businesses or whether you're consumers. You pay the same way.
Okay.
All published pricing. There's no special secret sauce. You just what you see is what you get. Model T, baby.
Model T. Now, with that, when you plug this into your vehicle, especially if you're in some areas of the world, like I know you're in St. Louis or I'm in Baltimore, can this be an alternative to LoJack? Like, should this be considered a security thing? So if somebody steals the car, they can find it, or is it pretty easy to rip out?
If you use the wired version,
Yeah,
definitely a lot more capable there because that's not something you would see depending on where you wired it.
yeah.
The plugin, obviously, more easy to rip it off and throw it away.
Okay.
We don't bill ourselves as theft recovery, but can it be used like that? Absolutely. And do people use it like that? Certainly they do. But
Yeah,
if you're going to use it that way, you should use the wired version. It would be better. It would be a better option because it can't be located that easily.
yeah.
And we've had, oh my God, we have stories of We have stories of people who have recovered the vehicles. We were in the news not too long ago, where there was a guy out of North Carolina who went on a crime spree.
Mm,
I mean, we're talking, murder, attempted murder,
yeah.
you know, and switching. He switched multiple cars. The last car he hijacked and took had links up in it,
Huh.
and a police officer in New York, the lady that he carjacked
Yeah.
said, "Hey, I have this in here, I have links up in my
Oh,
car."
okay. Yeah.
So he was able to just go to the App Store, download the Links Up app, log in with their credentials, and actually went and they apprehended the suspect on Brooklyn Bridge.
Oh, yeah, there you go. That's cool. So then, with your different products, one of the interesting things I saw is you actually had like asset trackers for, I guess, like bobcats or cement mixers or that kind of thing. Do those run off of batteries? And if they do, like how long do those batteries last for?
So yes, asset trackers are battery powered,
Yeah.
and we have a couple different versions. So we have versions of those that can run for 3 to 4 months, and then another version that runs for 6 to 12 months, depending on usage, and then another version that runs on solar and can run pretty much indefinitely.
Oh, really? That's
And
cool.
yeah, and you can use them on trailers and on different assets and whatnot. So.
That's cool. Then how do companies like find you? Because I feel like vehicle tracking and asset tracking seems to me it's like digital surveillance was like 10 years ago. So I used to install digital surveillance systems. It was the greatest business in the world because everybody wanted it. It was actually easy to get your hands on, but just nobody knew. They just didn't know how to get it. And I feel like that's with vehicle tracking. Like a lot of people know they want it, but it's this weird gray area. Like you think you would go and just buy one from Samsung or buy it from Best Buy. You don't really know how to get it. Like how do people find you? How do you actually do that sales process?
Uh, Go to Google, type in GPS tracker.
Really?
You will
Okay.
see our ads, guaranteed.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's generally how our customers engage with us, to begin with. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, people do what people normally do. I have a question. Let me go to Google. Let me type, oh, I want to GPS track my car, or a GPS tracker, or a GPS vehicle tracker, or there's a whole laundry list of words and phrases that we purchase ads for on Google or Bing or several other search engines.
Yeah.
So you go and you search for it, and you will see our organic ads, you will see our regular ads, and all the kind of good jazz, and I mean organic links as well as
Yeah. Yeah.
ads, and you can click on them, and then like if you came to Motosafety or Linxup, the website that you see is like one page that tells you exactly what it is, and here's how to go about getting it, and here's the order now button.
Yeah.
So
Oh, is that it? So do you do any sales through Best Buy or security installers or anything like that, or is it all through the internet then?
no, we do.
Okay.
We do have reseller channels.
Okay.
So retailers, obviously, like Newegg and Amazon and Overstock and Walmart, those guys. And I'm not sure if we are on Best Buy or not yet.
Okay.
Marketing would know better if we are or not, but I know the other ones that we are on. So yeah, you can walk in and you have a little retail package. You can pick it up and you can take it home, and it has everything you need to get going.
Okay.
So you can certainly do that. Oh, well, not from the brick and mortar store. Our stores are pretty much online. That's a good point. So you
Okay.
can't walk into a Walmart and pick up our stuff and walk out the door.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's everybody wants to do it online now, including us, and
Yeah.
the retailers who are buying from us are only selling it online.
That's
So yeah,
that's interesting because I know that was a thing is like back in the day, like 5 or 6 years ago, there was that whole argument. Do you just do it online or do you do brick and mortar? Because I guess getting to brick and mortar stores isn't necessarily what you want. Like some people, they get picked up by Best Buy and then basically go bankrupt for it. Like they didn't realize all the things involved. How
yeah.
how hard is it then to be like on Walmart? Because I know getting into Walmart sucks, but then getting into Walmart's website, how hard is that process?
Well, it took us a while.
Okay.
Won't lie, it took us a while,
Yeah.
but our marketing folks were pretty determined, and they kept at it, and they did make it in.
Yeah.
What specifics they followed, I'm not sure. That's part of being the CTO. Is marketing is great, but some of their stuff I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, getting onto the online space is hard on
Yeah.
some of the big channels. But
Okay.
once you get there, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. But it's in terms of okay, now you're on there. So
Yeah.
um, but it is not as difficult as getting into brick and mortar version would be, because people don't understand that. Yeah, the retailer is going to buy stuff and stock their shelves with it, but if they don't sell in a particular amount of time, they're coming back.
Yeah, yeah,
That, so there's chargebacks and whatnot, and it's easier to deal with, and if they're just online. Like even retailers are, from what I can tell, uh, feel better about taking your device or taking your product and warehousing it for a little bit longer, and then returning it if it doesn't sell, which hasn't happened to us. So we're pretty fortunate there.
yeah.
All of our retailers have been able to sell their devices in a pretty timely fashion and keep ordering more. But they can afford to take more risks on you.
Yeah, that's it. So, would you ever try to get into the brick and mortar stores, or do you think that's some 2010 concept?
You know, we keep having this conversation around here. Should we? Shouldn't we? Should we? Shouldn't we? And so far, every time it has come up, we've like, you know what? There's so much to be had online. Let's still pursue that first
Hmm.
before we go brick and mortar. Will we go brick and mortar at some point? We could. I mean, there's nothing that precludes us from doing that. There's nothing that there's no gate from our technology side. The way we package things, the way our customers interact with our device, with the packaging, with the service. There's nothing that precludes us from taking the same package that you bought from online to pick it up from the retail shelf. There's nothing that precludes us from doing that. But I don't know. I don't know if we'll do it or not.
Oh, okay, that's cool. And then, so you're actually in St. Louis, aren't you?
Chesterfield, yep, one of the
Chesterfield.
suburbs of St. Louis.
So I guess that's one of the questions. Because since you're one of the founders, was it founded there? Did you actually create it there?
Yeah, in St. Louis, that is absolutely correct. Mostly because I lived here.
Oh, right.
And so, that's kind of this is where I live,
Yeah.
and I was one of the original founders. So we stayed here, and overall, it's been a pretty good decision
Huh.
to have stayed over here. Technical help is, definitely not as easy to come by as it may be on the coast,
Yeah.
but there is a lot of talent in St. Louis, and
Is there?
there's kind of a in the last few years in particular, there are more and more startups in the St. Louis area. There's like a lot of investment by the business community and by the municipalities to grow the downtown area in such a way as to attract companies. We've got several startups that have moved in from outside
Really?
to St. Louis, and it's gotten easier to get really good developers in St. Louis,
Huh.
which wasn't necessarily the case when I started
Yeah.
12 years ago.
So can you actually get people to transfer into St. Louis if you give them a job?
You can, and we've had people do that.
Okay.
And But more importantly, we've been able to find everybody we've needed
Oh,
in St. Louis, and we've got a pretty quality team. And it's interesting. So all of our employees, except for three people, are here in this area.
really? Really? So do you do all the engineering? Because I know I was talking with one startup in Cleveland, and I was surprised Cleveland was a good startup area, but then I found out like all of their technical work actually happened in California. Like with you guys, like the engineering and the coding, is that all happening in St. Louis, or is that getting farmed out to somewhere else?
Right here,
No, right. Oh, okay.
right here.
That's cool.
All of our development staff, all of our engineers are right here. Like I said, everybody, sales, support, development, all of that happens right out of this building that I'm sitting in.
Really? Okay. Does St. Louis give you any kind of like tax benefits, or just try to sweeten the pot a little bit to keep you guys around, or just you just like being around there?
Yeah, no, we're just from here.
You're just from there. Okay, that's cool. And so how long then has I'm gonna keep screwing that up. Agilis Systems. How long has the company been around for?
So we started in 2004. We were a startup in 2004,
Okay.
and we got into a field that you may or may not remember
Yeah.
or know or care about, called mobile resource management. So
Okay.
MRM, that
Yeah.
was the buzzword du jour in 2004, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
Uh, Mobile work orders and forms, electronic
Yeah.
forms, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we were doing that. I mean, when we started, we were literally writing J2ME apps that ran on old Nextel candy bar phones and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we started with that, but we struggled for 4 or 5 years trying to be successful at that, raising money locally, growing, trying to be successful at that. And we were moderately successful, but it was no hockey stick. It was a long, hard slog.
Yeah.
And in that time frame, as we were working, one of the things that we did in our MRM business was GPS tracking.
Okay.
And GPS tracking was a little different in those days because you didn't have inexpensive OBD2 based GPS trackers. You had to buy devices that cost at a minimum $400 or $500, usually more like $800-900. You had to get them installed professionally.
Yeah.
You had to pay a carrier fees for the data. Then you had to pay us fees separately. So if you're a customer, you had to invest maybe $1,000 per vehicle, and then pay 3 different vendors for service to cobble together a GPS solution. Not a good thing. But by the time 2011 and 12 came around,
Yeah.
which is when we started this Linxup product, we saw the OBD2 plug came out,
Okay.
and we said, all right, that's the price is right, the form factor is right, and can we package it all together? So we were one of the first companies out there who packaged an inexpensive, simple, easy to use GPS service that was completely turnkey, where you could just go, put in your order, put in your credit card, have the device show up, put it in your car, off you go. So that's really changed for us. So when we did that, that was one of our products. We did Linxup, and we were like, yeah, we're sure it's going to be a decent business, but let's try that.
Yeah.
So we just kind of did it, and the rest is history. It just snowballed like crazy.
Yeah.
And just in the last 4 or 5 years, we've doubled almost every year since we launched Linxup.
Damn. And so how big is your company now?
In terms of people,
Yeah. Yeah.
we have about 80 people.
80. Wow. Okay. So then are you going to run into issues like with a lot of tech companies? That's the thing, is when they're 50 people, they can be in an area and it's all fine and dandy. They get to 500 and then you start running up into scaling issues with that area. Do you think with St. Louis you'll run into issues once you get to 200 or 300, or?
It is a challenge I would love to solve.
Yeah, okay. Okay. How big do you think this could get for you? I mean, realistically.
Sure. I think it's got a lot of legs. There are
Yeah.
definitely companies out there that compete with us. It's a fairly competitive space. There are other companies out there that do the same thing that we do.
Yeah.
A lot of small companies, a handful of companies that are our size, and just a few that are bigger than us.
Yeah.
But overall, this whole vehicle tracking space is pretty underpenetrated, pretty underserved.
Okay.
Some of the biggest fleets are probably taken care of, much higher penetration there, but the smaller you get, there's more opportunities for people like us. So is there more business to be had? We think so. That's why we're still keeping in it.
So then with your company, then as you scale, like one of the things is you see companies and you see the product you think they're selling, and then realistically that's not actually the product. Kind of like with Uber, you think it's a taxi service, but it's really this weird ass logistic thing. Like with you guys then as you scale, like what do you actually see as your core product? Is it actually the GPS widgets, or is it your platform, or is it something else?
That is a very good question. Very insightful question. And yeah, the more than just a GPS track. So that's kind of our company. It is, our company line is more of simplify the complicated. They have a little card here. That's kind of our company's overall thing. Simplify the complicated.
Yeah.
And what we take pride on is taking something that is complex to do for a small business or a consumer today,
Yeah.
and package it up in a way that makes it simple and accessible to them. And have we do all of our inventory software, billing software, all the back end logistics.
Yeah.
We do in house.
Okay.
We spend as much time in engineering
Yeah.
our logistics tail as we do on the product itself. So, and we've done that with a thought. We haven't farmed out a whole bunch of this stuff everywhere else, because we want to be able to be a company that can bring another thing that maybe like Linxup, which today is difficult to do,
Yeah.
but take the hardware, take the bandwidth, take the data, put it together. We have the sales channels, we have the sales expertise, the marketing expertise, the marketing channels, So take that expertise. That's kind of our platform. We want to be something that, okay, today it's Linxup,
Yeah.
tomorrow it's something else, which is difficult to do today. Maybe we can make it easier and more accessible. That's kind of our play.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. So then, as you grow, since you've been around for about 12 years now, and you've said you're a startup, do you plan for an exit, or do you plan for like an IPO or anything like that, or are you just focused on the product right now?
So a couple of things. One is you know, we don't really call ourselves a startup anymore. I mean, we kind of exited that phase a while back. I mean, we are very profitable and growing fast and all kinds of nice feel good things.
Yeah.
But in terms of what our plans are to execute, execute, execute. Just keep growing, keep doing better, keep
Yeah.
getting better, keep making the product stronger and better, and just make our logistics better and stronger, and just keep executing. So what the future brings, you know,
Well,
anything.
but that's an interesting question though, because I talk with a lot of startups, and it's all about exit, 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 and who cares about something like profit, right? So, do you run any issues with your investors? If you, I mean, it sounds stupid, but if you actually go the profit route, do you run into any problems with that?
You can. The what we're kind of lucky because the investors we have, the company that backs us,
Yeah.
is not a traditional VC. They don't have a fund that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and they don't have to provide committed returns to their investors at the end of the time, at the end of the fund's life or anything like that,
Yeah.
which most VCs and private equity companies have to do. Our investors are more of private equity plus management services. It's a much more boutique firm. So they own and invest or invest in and help manage just a small portfolio of companies.
Yeah.
And they add new companies very, very selectively. But when they do, they're not looking for a quick exit. They're
Hmm.
like, let's do what's right for the company. They don't have people that they have to give money to get out or anything like that. So they
Yeah.
have a lot more flexibility, and they use that flexibility, and we can use that flexibility to our advantage. So there's nobody standing over our shoulder saying you must exit by this date, or I want this return, or
Oh, okay.
why are you generating cash flow versus anything like that. So
Yeah.
we've been fortunate that we have a very good investor partner,
Hmm.
and we have a reasonably successful product that's allowing us to not only scale,
Yeah.
but still be profitable in spite of scaling quickly.
So finding that type of investor, was that luck? Was that somebody you knew? How did you? Because that's actually something, like I say, I haven't heard before. It seems like everybody is either they're focused on essentially loans, or they're focused on exits. I haven't heard this before.
Right. I would like to say there was a very long, careful, deliberate process on our part to find just the right investor, but no, it was luck and who we knew.
It's like, okay.
That's honestly, when we hooked up with this investor group, it was in 2007,
Hmm.
and a couple of our founders, myself included,
Yeah.
had worked at a prior company where we knew some of the people who run this investment company.
Okay.
So we got connected somehow, and it all kind of worked out. It was luck
Okay.
and connections. We wouldn't have known how to pick a good investor at the time. We were so naive and so just dumb. We would
Well,
not have known how to look at three different investor partners and pick.
hmm,
We It was luck of the draw,
it was like,
and we
oh,
just lucked into a very good company,
yeah.
and they have provided us with management assistance as well, and they've provided some key people who have been very instrumental
Yeah.
in our success.
That's cool. So how many founders? Because you're a co-founder, or you're the founder.
I'm a co-founder.
So how many founders were there then?
Originally, there were three.
Yeah.
One gentleman left us quite a while back,
Yeah.
and then another founder retired recently,
Hmm.
and I'm the last founder.
Oh, you're the last founder. Okay. So back in the day, how did you decide who was going to be like the CTO and who was going to be the CEO and all that?
Well, the CTO was easy because I'm the
Yeah.
guy with the technology background, so
Okay. Yeah.
that mine was pretty straightforward. I I would have been a pretty poor anything else. CTO was my deal. So
Yeah.
that was my role. And then another gentleman who had experience in running companies before was the CEO. And then another gent who had done operations work before ended up being the COO. And it was a good mix. It worked.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. So I haven't heard of somebody from like a CEO retiring before like the exit. Were there any quirks, any issues with that? Like since you came up as, three people and then as two people drop off, was there anything weird that somebody should know if that happens?
Not really. I mean, it was actually pretty straightforward. I mean, the person who left us a while back, he was our old CEO, and there were definitely some things that I'd rather not get into, but it was reasonably amicable.
Yeah.
The gentleman who just retired was very straightforward. That was pretty straightforward. That was, essentially the company's no longer a startup. He had helped put it on the path to success, and I think frankly he was just now getting bored. So this is working. I
Yeah.
have equity in the company. I'm set. You know, what should I do next? So I think
Yeah.
that was more of that.
Okay. So in the St. Louis area, since you started this there, are there any special, like, I don't know, here in like the Baltimore area, there's small business associations, and there's angel funding groups and all that. Have there been any like influential like communities or organizations that have been able to help you out as you've been growing this thing?
Yeah, when we started, there was very little of that.
Yeah.
There were a couple of organizations. Archangels is a pretty well-known one
Okay.
that definitely helps out in the St. Louis area, and it was helpful to us. But there wasn't a lot. But in the last 12 years, that has really changed. Now there are several organizations that help you with seed funding, help you with mentoring, help you with all kinds of support that you would need as a startup. Cultivation Capital is a pretty well-known one. We have quite a few now. Those are the two that just come to my mind, top of my head. There are companies that specialize in helping life sciences startups, because we have Monsanto in town and we have Pfizer in town. We have some big life science kind of companies in town. So
Yeah.
there's definitely people who specialize in incubating life science startups,
Yeah.
and companies that specialize in incubating financial services and SaaS and that kind of stuff. So we have some we have a if we were starting now, we would
Yeah.
have so much help. It would be crazy.
Yeah. So I guess that's an interesting thing. I forgot Monsanto was there. As a startup, as a small business, do you pay attention to or do you care like when Monsanto gets bought by Bayer and how that may shake whatever the hell's going up in their corporate world? Because that's what they talk about. I guess when Budweiser got purchased, that actually causes a lot of issues for the city that they're in. Does that affect you at all, or do you just not even worry about
The latter. I mean, it
it?
doesn't affect us, in the day to day one way or the other.
Yeah.
It is unfortunate that some big companies have, their headquarters have left, but they're a sizable presence in the area.
Okay.
And just selfishly, they're thinking, well, if this company is moving, would we have some engineers or some kind of personnel that we could, get?
Yeah.
Uh, uh, but it's no, it really hasn't been a factor.
Okay.
We just monitor because we are from St. Louis, so we want to pay attention to what's going on. It does have an impact
Yeah.
in the area, but it hasn't really had any impact on us.
Oh. And then with the startup thing, I mean, seems like you have a good product and you have a good idea and got good customers and all that. Have you thought about just getting just a crap ton more funding and trying to scale it up to $1 billion, $2 billion?
Always possible. I mean, it's
Always.
something that we do consider.
Yeah.
Don't know if we'll go down that route or not, but
Okay.
that's definitely one thing in the bag. You asked about, hey, whether it's an IPO or an exit or
Yeah.
go big, or those are all options. Those are all options that we would consider.
Oh, cool. Well, just get back to the final few questions then. So I was looking at the pricing for Linxup, and it's kind of confusing. So there's something like there's like a $22 a month, and there's a $39 a month, and there's a $79 a month. And I guess my question is what are those different prices, and then how do you determine if you're going to try to charge $22 or $79 per month? Do you just flip a coin on that, or?
And if that's confusing, we need to have a chat with marketing because it's not supposed to be. So there are two components to our pricing. One is the price of the hardware. One is the price that you pay every month,
Yeah.
the service fee.
Yeah.
The service fee is $22.99.
Oh,
That's the
that's
service fee.
okay.
I think it's $22.99 for Linxup. I think it might be $19.99 for Motosafety,
Okay.
but that's the service fee. But if you're looking at Linxup, then you have the hardware charge, and the hardware charge is going to be, if you don't have any contract, it's going to be $79.99. If you had a 1-year contract, it's $39.99, and if you have a 2-year contract, it's zero. I may have the exact numbers wrong, but that's
Oh, I see. So it's $22 a month for the service, and then
yeah,
how long you sign up is
yeah,
how much the hardware
changes the
costs.
hardware price.
Okay.
Or you can get around it, just buy the hardware off of Amazon or Walmart and
Yeah.
activate the service. When you activate the service, we'll charge you the monthly. The monthly doesn't change. The monthly is that, but we'll discount the hardware if you sign up for a contract. And I think on motor safety, I don't think there's even a contract. On motor safety, there's just like, here's the hardware, here's the service fee.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That works. So, as a startup person, though, like, how do you figure out that? Like, how do you figure out 22.95? Is that do you do research and surveys? And like, how about 21? How about 25? Or do you just pick a number and everybody seems to like it?
So a combination.
Yeah.
There's definitely some thought that goes into it. We don't just put it out of thin air. Like when we started, we looked at, hey, what are people charging on the expensive side? What are there are people though who are specializing in the $1,000 black boxes and the $500 black boxes. So the hardware we're pretty clear on. We kind of knew what our cost was, and our goal was never to make money on hardware. Hey, we will recover the money if we can, but if not, that's okay. We'll make it up in the monthly.
Okay.
So the hardware is we always try to keep it as low as possible. And on the monthly thing, hey, if you're buying and back when we started, there were several companies that were doing their own custom hardware and then wrapping a service around it. They were generally in the $40 to $50 a month range. So we said, you know what, that is high, and we know we can get it. We can do it for less. We know that what our data costs are. We know what our mapping costs are. We know what our hardware costs are. All that kind of good jazz. So that felt high to us. We started at a price. I think when we started, it may have been 25 or something, or 27. I forget what we started at, but we started at that number, and then understanding that as time would go on, we would drop it. And so we were we're not necessarily the low price leader,
Okay.
but we think we charge a fair price for what we offer compared to what other people charge.
Yeah.
We keep a pretty close eye on the competition and see what they're doing and kind of adjust accordingly.
Okay.
And we have a lot of competitors who look at our pricing and adjust theirs.
Yeah.
So,
All right, cool, cool. And then so with the franchise thing, because like I say, most of my viewers, they're consultants, they're running businesses and all that. If they're interested in being a dealer or whatever for the Linxup products, would they just email you or they just go to the website to find out that information?
yeah, if you go to the website, I think there's just a panel at the bottom that says, hey, if you want to sign up as a reseller, click here, and then you submit your information, and somebody follows up with you. We have a dedicated team that works with our reseller partners and go from there.
Is there a minimum yearly sale like back in the old days you used to have to sell like $20,000 worth of equipment to become a reseller? Do you have like a limit like that?
I think we do, but it's pretty low, and
Yeah.
it's mostly just to make sure that you have some skin in the game,
Yeah.
where you're not getting in just for the one deal. And well, if the deal is right, that may meet your minimum commitment too. So it's a
Yeah.
pretty low minimum commitment. If you do that, it's not you don't have to sell $20,000 worth of stuff,
Yeah.
and then you get some money on the hard. You get a pretty handsome amount on the hardware up front, and then you get a residual uh, going forward
Okay.
on every unit you sell.
I guess that's the question because you're saying you could buy the hardware off of Amazon. Is the hardware just kind of like a standard hardware you can buy from anywhere, or is it specialized for you? Like, is it like a PC, like anybody builds them and then you buy your service, or do you have is your hardware special?
It's a little specialized. I mean, it's
Oh,
it's um, the specific hardware that we purchase. Other people purchase it also, but then the configuration of it varies.
okay.
The frequency with which it reports, where it reports, how much data it stores, how long does do store and forward for,
Yeah.
does it, what's the threshold at which it will send, what's the harsh braking, rapid acceleration kind of threshold that we've got going on? Should it report when you're turning, when you're not? There's a lot of different things that we've personalized to our thing that come set up from the factory. So the device starts as it's not generic. It's not really a PC you can go buy off the lot somewhere, but other people do buy the same hardware, but then
Yeah.
different people customize it to their own, what they think their customers want.
Makes sense. And then so when it reports the data, I'm guessing it's not using Wi-Fi, it's using 3G or the mobile.
Right.
Are you locked into specific carriers, AT&T, Verizon? Because I know I've traveled a lot in the U.S. and T-Mobile works really well here and Verizon works really well here. And
Right.
are you locked into a carrier or can you choose a carrier depending on
So
your issues?
you can.
Okay.
So if you don't specify a carrier,
Yeah.
we will just pick one for you. The one that we get the best rates from, the one that we have the broadest that will have the broadest coverage,
Yeah.
and those are devices we buy the most. So it's all 3G. We
Okay.
phased out our 2G devices. So I don't know if you know this, but AT&T, which was the biggest 2G carrier for all of people like us,
Yeah.
they announced the shutdown of 2G by the end by this December.
Really?
Right? So December 31st. If you have a device out in the field that's using GPRS or 2G or anything like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
it's turning into a brick.
I did not know
So,
that.
oh
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah. 2G on AT&T is done.
Huh.
Um,
Yeah.
so we knew that way up front. So we had transitioned everybody up. So we've been in 3G for quite a while.
Okay.
Uh, and so we are actually unaffected. We're one of the few people of our size who are pretty much unaffected by the 2G sunset,
Okay.
AT&T 2G sunset. But
Yeah.
if so, we're all 3G, and we're waiting anxiously for LTE. Because if you want, I'll tell you why
Yeah.
what we're waiting for.
Yeah.
But when the 3G stuff is all out there, and we do have 2G CDMA as well, which is not being sunset anytime in the near future, but sometime in the future.
Yeah.
But you can pick. You can pick. If you don't, we'll pick your carrier for you. But
Yeah.
you can get our devices on Sprint or on Verizon
Yeah.
or on AT&T or on T-Mobile. So
Okay. So then, yeah, I guess, I mean, with the data that you're sending, I'm surprised, like, what does LTE do for you? Like, I understand if you're doing voice and video and all that, but it seems like you should just be sending pretty, almost text data. Like, what does LTE do for you?
nothing at all, other than the carriers
Yeah.
are going to be farming the spectrum from off the old stuff and moving it
Yeah.
on to service LTE.
Huh.
So
Okay.
as the spectrum drops away,
Right.
the available spectrum goes away,
Okay.
then we have no choice other than move to LTE at some point.
Huh.
And the other thing also is the way LTE is set up. It has the different types of LTEs, LTE categories 0 through 4 or something like that, where the higher category is the stuff that you would get in your cell phone, which is the higher bandwidth thing, but it also has higher overhead. And then if you go down to category 1 or category 0, then you have devices that are capable of talking. They're more IoT friendly.
Hmm. Okay.
But if you put a regular old LTE Cat4 modem in your device, as far as I understand it, it'll be significantly chattier
Yeah.
to get you the same data, which for us bandwidth is super important. We need it to be really small. So,
Yeah.
um, but LTE category 1, and there's another one. I think they've got another name for it now that's coming out too. So a lot of these guys are the carriers are supporting it.
Yeah.
The modules are out there. The modules are dropping in price, and when they get to a certain price threshold where they're 3G with the same price as 3G,
Yeah.
then we switch to 4G.
So I guess that's one interesting question. So I think like the Netherlands and I think maybe South Korea, a few other countries are actually implementing wireless like IoT specific networks. Have you heard about that in the US at all? Or do you have
Yeah,
any thoughts about it?
there is a company.
Yeah.
What's their name? I think it is out of Netherlands or France. I think it's out of France.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a company that has a very specific kind of IoT network that they're building out.
Yeah.
I don't know how successful it's going to be, considering that when LTE Cat 0 or Cat 1, or there's another category that I'm forgetting,
Yeah.
which is even more specific to IoT devices.
Hmm.
Once that's coming out, then they might struggle, but they're out there, and
Yeah.
they're right now. I think they are in San Francisco area, around the Bay Area,
Yeah.
where they have their own network, and it caters to IoT devices.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
for the life of me, I can't remember the company's name.
Uh,
But they're out there, and we've looked at them,
Yeah.
and we've talked to our hardware vendor to see what they think, and
Yeah.
they're interested. But also, just being pragmatic, it
Yeah.
would be tough to see that over 4G LTE with the right IoT category.
Yeah. Okay. So right now, LTE is just the best way to go for the foreseeable.
We think so. We're just waiting for the price to become palatable.
Okay. So when you buy, I guess the SIM card, do you just buy like a 1 gig SIM card, or that's supposed to last forever? Is that basically how it works for you?
The devices have their own storage. We don't store data on the SIM cards.
Okay.
The SIM cards just have your connection profile information, your APN stuff and all that kind of good jazz. That's it. We don't store anything on the SIM
Yeah.
beyond what you need to connect.
Okay.
Uh, so yeah, the SIM cards are not 1 gig SIM cards. I think they're 128K or something. I don't know what they are.
Yeah. Oh no,
Uh,
no. I mean for like for the amount of data. Do you just pay a monthly fee for all the data, or are they? Because that was one
sorry.
of the problems with the IoT devices before. Is you got one SIM card that had a specific amount of data. As soon as you hit that limit, it's dead until you put another one in.
Yeah, I mean that obviously wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So no, so we get these SIM cards, and we get more important than SIM cards are the data plans we get.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the data plans we get are for definitely a set bandwidth a month, and you can go over, and they're generally pooled. So we may get, hey, we have so many meg data plans, but they're pooled across our universe of devices.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if one device goes AWOL and starts sending over too much data, it's balanced out by the hundreds of others that are behaving correctly. So overall, bandwidth usage is really, really, really lean
Yeah.
on these devices. We're not talking gigs or hundreds of megs or tens of megs. We are talking much lower.
Okay. Cool. So I guess the final question then, what everybody always wants to know: are you folks hiring at all?
We
Yeah.
are actually hiring. We're looking for a development manager.
Okay.
We're looking for a marketing analyst. We're looking for a couple of other positions. I think we're looking for 5 or 6 people right now.
Okay, cool. Would they go to linxup.com to see those positions, or where would they see that?
I think so.
You think so?
I'll check. I'm not sure, but certainly Linxup or AgilisSystems.com. One of the two. You know,
Okay.
Agilis Systems I know would have it,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure if Linxup has it. It may. I should check. But
Oh. I guess that's one question too, since a lot of my people are trying to get jobs. Where do you advertise your jobs at? Is it Indeed or Monster? Like, where do you put the jobs out?
yeah, you nailed it. We will go
Yeah.
through LinkedIn, Indeed,
Okay.
that kind of stuff. I mean, we have our HR department, and they have their own things. But I know that we look through LinkedIn and Indeed and Dice or whatever the job boards are. We do post there, and we do look for people. I personally like if I'm looking for a developer, and I'll work with our HR people. I tend to start from LinkedIn first,
Okay.
uh, but we're pretty flexible. We've got people from a variety of different places.
All right. I know, like in San Francisco and like the Baltimore area, we have a lot of like tech meetups and tech events. It's a good place to go to and schmooze. Does St. Louis have the same type of thing?
We
Or
do, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. There's quite a variety of St. Louis meetups. There's meetups that specialize on startups, that meetups that specialize on various user groups. So the Java, the R, the whatever you're interested in. The same kind of meetups exist over here. Probably not to the same scale
okay,
as the Bay Area, but they're all there. I mean, you can find a group for just about everything you are interested in.
okay, cool, cool. Well, thank you for your time today. Are there any like final thoughts you'd have for the viewers at home?
Um, you know, if you're interested in GPS tracking, just go search for it
Yeah,
and find us and use us in good health. And yeah, I mean, it has become a pretty accessible technology. It is certainly not a daunting thing to say, I want to track my car and actually do it. The path is really straightforward.
yeah, okay, cool. Well, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Cool. See
All right. Thank
ya.
you much.